Hi guys, let me take you through a step-by-step tutorial of how I made this beautiful resin checkered notebook. So first of all, you're going to need to protect the surface you are working on with a mat or anything that can protect your surface, and these are the molds I'm working with. So this shaker mold here is the A7 size. Next, I'm going to need some gloves and an organic respirator. The next important item for this project is the resin and the hardener. Next, for mixing, I use some mixing sticks and silicone spatula as well as my mixing cups. The brand of resin and hardener that you use for your project is a very important factor. So you should always be mindful of the type of resin and hardener you are using. For the best effect, I'm using a crystal clear epoxy resin from O-Celle's Crafts, and then I'm using a 2:1 ratio. For this ratio, I'm going to be pouring 2 parts of the part A, which is the resin, and I'm also going to be pouring 1 part of the part B, which is the hardener. The ratio on the product label of any resin and hardener you buy indicates the quantity you are going to use for the measurement. After measurement, you are going to move on to the mixing stage. The mixing has to be done slowly in a clockwise manner till the resin clears out and looks as clear as water. Here I selected my mixing cups and divided the resin I had mixed into 2 different portions. To get rid of the bubbles, I used my lighter to pop those bubbles in the twinkle of an eye. The next step for the project was to add the colorants to the portions I had initially poured. So for the first portion, I used some red translucent pigment, added some few drops, and I mixed till it was evenly distributed. And for the second portion, I used some silver leaf sheets and I mixed till I got the consistency I was looking for. So for the pouring of the resin, everything depends basically on the design you are trying to create. So you just try as much as possible to pour in a pattern that is very pleasing to you to create the design you have in mind. So once that cured, I went ahead to demold the piece. The curing or the hardening takes about 24 to 48 hours depending on the brand or the type of resin you are working with. I was very pleased by the outcome and it turned out exactly how I actually wanted it to. So with the front cover, which is the part which has the butterfly shaker, you can clearly see the cavity the mold had created for us to use for the shaker bits of the notebook. Here I used different designs of polymer clay slices as the fillings for the shaker of the notebook, and I randomly poured them into the butterfly cavity. This plastic piece here is called the acrylic film, and it has the butterfly shape for protecting or covering the shaker parts of the notebook. So here I lined the shape of the cavity with UV resin. So the reason why UV resin was used for this part of the project is that UV resin cures within a matter of 5 to 10 minutes, and that is what we needed to be able to proceed with the project. After the UV resin cured, I used a syringe to draw a quantity of the baby oil that I was going to use as the shaker liquid. I prefer to use baby oil as the shaker liquid because it is clear and it is more viscous than water. Always leave enough airspace within the shaker piece so that there is enough space for the liquid to move around within the project. Once I got the preferred quantity of baby oil for this project, I sealed the hole with UV resin. Next, I domed the surface of the notebook to give it a very glossy effect and to also seal the entire design within the notebook as well. Doming is basically defined as adding a top coat or a top layer to the piece you are making, and then it's also a very crucial stage. So whenever you are doming your piece, you should try as much as possible to make sure the resin doesn't overflow to the other side of the piece you are doming. After that cured, this is how the shaker notebook turned out. It was so pretty. So I went ahead to add the sheets to it to complete the piece I was making. So here I added the silver binder rings to the notebook cover. I also added the sheets and then the front part of the notebook before closing the binder rings and completing the notebook. So this is how the entire thing turned out. Because of the viscosity of the baby oil, it takes some time for the polymer clay slices to drop to the bottom whenever it is turned around, and this is exactly what we are looking for. Thank you so much for watching our video. Please don't forget to subscribe for more tutorials like this one, and also share our content to your friends and other loved ones. See you in the next one. Bye.